about a half an hour. All right, well, you guys are getting your things. I'm going to go live, and happy Monday to everyone. Well, my class, as well as your classes, are getting their things organized. And I'd like you to look at the agenda. And you will need your packet and your textbook. Okay, so everyone, please find those things for today's lesson. All right, my class, do you have any questions about today's agenda? It's a little bit shorter, so we have more work time, more independent time. You don't have to be working on the packet now. I'm going to ask you to kind of just hold off on that, as well as the other classrooms too. A couple of things before we move forward. Couple reminders. 91 students have turned in this quiz. It is going to be turned off today, which means anyone who didn't turn this quiz in before this evening, I'm sorry, after this evening, it'll be a 0. Okay, so once again, the deadline is tonight. If you do not have it in, it'll be turned off and you'll have a 0. Same with this and same with that quiz. Okay, so let's get that in. 92 of you on that quiz and 91 on that one. Okay, and everyone in here, you guys are done with these quizzes, correct? Yes, Mr. Glinsky, yes, we are done. All right. Can someone please read the definition of Manitou? All right, Manitou. It was in last chapter and in today's chapter of Sign of the Beaver. All right, Pele, can you please read it?
A Manitou could be a bird or animal in a dream or a voice speaking to him. But basically the idea is that Afghan just has to be patient and wait for it.
Okay, he was patient, wasn't he? And in the last chapter, we discovered that he did find his Manitou, and he has transformed into a hunter now. Okay, so quick reminder, Mrs. Hughes and Mrs. Walter and I have been keeping this list for anyone who needs it when we are done. This can be one of your books for your 20-book challenge, is that what we call it? Okay, okay, so I sure hope you're going to be using this book for reading. Why not? You've read it. All right, before we get to today's lesson, I wanted to show you this timeline. Okay, so after the Columbian Exchange, we move on to the growth of this country, and that's what this timeline shows you. So the story, the Sign of the Beaver, takes place somewhere right in here. 1760, 1770, we're kind of right in here. Okay, not quite the Declaration of Independence or the American Revolution, but we're getting close. Okay, wanted to show you a map of the country. Okay, hold on. I don't want to show you this video. Sorry, everyone. All right. Having some technical difficulties here.
Between the 15th and the...
All right, I am not going to show you the map because it is not working for me. Nope. All right, I will make sure, I'll try to get that working some other time. All right, going to come over here. And in 1783, after we became a new country, okay, we have our 13 colonies over here. But as you can see, the British start to move west over the Appalachian Mountains and expand into the Wisconsin territory. Okay, and one of the reasons I wish this map was working over here is because, we'll go to this map. All right, because in the middle of the 1700s, we had this growth in our country. Yellow is British, okay, Appalachian Mountains in here, but over here, and take a special look at Wisconsin, this was possessed or controlled by the French. Okay, so this is going to be a really important thing to think of when you do your packet today. There's going to be the British, okay, and the French trying to coexist on the same continent. All right. And then as we move forward, everyone, okay, we will have things like this. The Treaty of Paris after the Revolutionary War, expansion. Check out these two maps, okay? Here is 1783. Here is about 20 years later. Okay, see the difference there? Just 20 years difference. It is around this time we now have two parts of this continent also. We've got the French controlled part, and then we have the British part, British controlled as well. So let's keep that in mind. We still got the British and the French trying to coexist on one continent. Okay? So you're going to see this several times. Now before we move on to today's work time, I wanted to show you this. Teachers, you may have to adjust your volumes in your classroom. So we're going to make this one work.
Between the 15th and the 18th century, the major European powers competed for the land and resources of the New World. In North America, Great Britain gradually established its colonies in the Atlantic coastal regions, but its northward expansion was blocked by French territories in Canada, especially...
Okay, do you see that? Expansion of the British was controlled or prevented by the French over here. And of course you've got the mountains over here as well.
in the area around the Great Lakes and the Mississippi Valley. Meanwhile, Spain was extending its territory in the south, especially in Florida. The 1763 Treaty of Paris, which marked the end of the French and Indian Wars, prevented France from expanding further. Spain claimed the western regions of the continent, but was forced to give up Florida. All the territory from the Atlantic to the Mississippi was now under British rule. Relying on its position as a powerful maritime nation, Great Britain adopted an ambitious colonial policy in the New World. Its 13 colonies of settlers had already coalesced into a dynamic economic, commercial, and cultural entity. These 13 colonies are usually grouped into 3 geographical subgroups. New England, with the colonies of New Hampshire, Massachusetts Bay, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. The Central Colonies, the province of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. And finally, the Southern Colonies of Maryland, Virginia, the 2 Carolinas, North and South, and Georgia. The Northern and Central Colonies, with their high population density, built up their economy on small farm holdings, industry, and trade. The South was dominated by large agricultural plantations, producing tobacco and rice, made possible by a servile black workforce, who represented a considerable proportion of the local population. The British government wanted to maintain its control over the colonies and their expansion to the west. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 prohibited, temporarily, settlers from moving west of the Appalachians. But the American colonists refused to accept taxation without representation, and were impatient with delays in developing new territories. This situation quickly led to a major rift between them and the British government. On July 4th, 1776, the American colonies declared their independence from the Crown, and, with help from the French, defeated the British troops in the Long War of Independence. In signing the Second Treaty of Paris in 1783, the United Kingdom recognized the 13 colonies as free and sovereign states, and ceded all its territories as far as the Mississippi River. In the South, the United States of America handed Florida back to Spain in recognition of its support during the War of Independence.
Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to remember that this line here, the proclamation line, I just want you to remember that, okay? because that's going to come up later as we get closer to the Revolutionary War. This proclamation line that was drawn by the British. Okay? Alright, so you'll get a chance to, we're going to use this timeline again in the future. I need you just to keep that in mind. Alright, I need you to take out your packet. This is connected to the timeline as well as the video. So let's take that up, please. Alright, so here's going to be the deal with this. Before we begin, you may want to copy down over here the page numbers to use. Page 165 to 168. We provided answers 1 and 2 for the rest of the students. Mrs. Hughes' class on Thursday provided the answer for this one. And I've left the rest blank. Okay. Alright. Mrs. Hughes, you have indicated that most of your students are done with this. Awesome. Then during independent time, your students can turn the page and do 6.3, page 26. They can get started on that. But keep in mind, we're still going to go back and review page 25 when we get to it. Alright, so here's the deal. Okay? Mrs. Walter, this is for you, and Mrs. Hughes, this would be for some of your students, and this is for all of you. 10 minutes will be allowed for independent time. Okay? 10 minutes. At the end of that 10 minutes, I'm going to ask Mrs. Hughes, Mrs. Walter, and then I'm going to check in with you too. If it looks like you have been working independently and you made progress and you have the majority of this done, in 10 minutes I will come back on and I will provide some of the answers, or you will help me with some of the answers, and everyone else will all work together. But if for some reason we have Mrs. Walter, for example, and it's just going to take one class. If one class is not working, we're not going to do this for everyone. Okay, so it's all of us or none of us. So if all the classes, Mrs. Hughes, Mrs. Walter, and this class work independently and get some work done, then we will provide, or I will provide, the answers. Okay? Any questions? All right, so teachers, in about 10 minutes, send me a message through the live document, and I will know how your class did. Hopefully they do well, so we can do some of these answers together. If not, you're on your own. So 10 minutes. Any questions, guys? All right, I will turn off the microphone, but I will stay live. All right, my class and all the other classes, start to finalize your answers, please. Okay, so it turns out that my class did a really good job working hard on this. Okay, Mrs. Hughes had no complaints, but it looks as if the other classroom, Mrs. Walters' class, when I'm about to give answers, Mrs. Walters is going to sign off. Okay, she's going to sign off because you're not going to get the answers from the rest of the students. Instead, she's going to tell you what's going to be occurring tomorrow morning. Mrs. Walters' class, you have work to do from now until the time of dismissal. There should be no talking over there. Get your work done. Mrs. Walter, make sure you collect those assignments before the day is over. Mrs. Walter, you may sign off because we're going to be doing answers right about now. And I'm disappointed, but I'm not disappointed with you. All right, so we're going to start with number 10. Mrs. Hughes and students at home. Looks like it's just us. All right, so here we go. Let's go with number 10. Okay, number 10. What do you have, Susan B. Anthony? Yes, this was the Ohio River Valley, correct. Okay, that was a contentious area for settlement. And by the way, I'll show answers tomorrow. We're just going to listen and write if we can today. Okay, number 9, there are 2 possible answers. The colonists, what did they do? So, although the new law had strong support in the British government, many of the colonists, Pele? Hated or ignored it. They ignored it because they hated it. They hated or ignored it. Okay? Number 8. Who banned further settlement? Who banned it? Who said, no, 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 no. We're not going any further. Yes, Amelia Earhart.
The proclamation.
Okay, the proclamation, you're right. Okay, the proclamation banned. The proclamation of 1763. You could also write the British there too. The British proclamation. Number 7. Fort, an unsuccessful month-long attack on Fort Blank resulted in the Indian warriors returning to their villages. Fort what? Steve Jobs. Detroit. Rock City, Detroit. Okay. Number 6. We have Chief Blank emerged as the leader of a group of Indian tribes determined to force the British from their land. Remember, the British were moving westward. Okay. Neil Armstrong. Number 6 is Chief Pontiac. Correct. You may have heard Pontiac cars. I don't think they make Pontiacs anymore. No, Pontiac cars. Number 5, the British assumed the North American territory that they had won in the French and Indian War, included all blank lands as well. Okay. What kind of lands? Yes, Pele. Indian lands, correct. We won the war, so now we get the land, and then if it's controlled by Native Americans, they assumed it was theirs. And number 4, what country was replaced as the European power in the European River Valley? Amelia Earhart.
France.
France is correct. There's the theme. France and Britain, 2 powerhouses, now starting to, I guess, duke it out for established control of the North American continent. Okay, the eastern part. Okay, you will get a chance to actually see the answers tomorrow. I like to see if we can listen first, and then visualize, see the visuals second. All right, any questions before we go on? All right, how many of you finished, by the way? All right, awesome. You'll be able to finalize things tomorrow. Mrs. Hughes, hope that worked out for you. And students, you may start to put these things away. All right, it's President's Day. And some of you said, oh, kids in Illinois don't have school on President's Day. You're correct. Okay. It's considered, it gets federal status, federal recognition. Okay. In this image, you see 5. Okay. The previous 5 presidents before President Trump and President Biden. Okay. I'll go in order from oldest. I'm sorry, from the oldest to the youngest. Okay. So, President Carter, 1976 to 1980. I'm sorry, Ronald Reagan is not his picture. Ronald Reagan would be in this picture. He was 1981 to 1989. George Bush Sr. Okay. President Bill Clinton, 1992 to 1990. I'm sorry, to 2001. George Bush Jr. He was president for 8 years, and then President Obama. Okay. All right, Mrs. Hughes. As soon as I sign off, you may play this video of my class. Any questions? All right, here we go. I'm going to sign off.